Thank you so much for joining us this evening. In fact, over here in the UK, I'm Mal McCallion. This is the Growth Execution Podcast. Delighted to be joined by Janine Kelbach today. Hi, Janine. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Very well indeed. Thank you. Very well. Although I can tell that it is bright over where you are. Let the people know, where are you?
Sure. I'm from Cleveland, Ohio in the United States.
Excellent, fantastic. And listen, thanks so much for joining us. And you've had some excitement over there, which we may dip into at some stage a little later. But what we want to do on this series of episodes of the Growth Execution Podcast is really kind of go into launch. So find out a bit about your launch, your business. Every business has its own launch story, and we're really fascinated here by how that works for different entrepreneurs, because for us, particularly I think around the sort of the lockdown, the pandemic and so on, there's a lot more people looking at how they might be able to launch their businesses and what that might mean for them and so on. So it's great to hear how it's worked out for others. So if you can just share with us then, Janine, how did you get involved in your business? What was the kind of inspiration for you starting out?
So first, my business started back in 2015 is when I actually launched, but 2013 I was like dabbling around in content writing, and I'm actually a nurse by career choice, right? I went to college to be a nurse, and I've worked labor and delivery for many, many years, and then I transitioned into content writing, and then I kind of want to transition even further now, because you're talking about launch during a pandemic, and that is where this new pivot in my business has gone. So as many of us have experienced some sort of new normal or big change, I also did, right? I was working in the hospital, those front lines, and I realized, okay, this is going to be stressful, and I really don't want to be there as much as they want me there, because all the things, I have 2 little kids. I don't want COVID if I don't have to get it. And my business was growing. I had a lot of clients that I was writing health content for. And then the pandemic hit, and now I'm a homeschool teacher too. So what happened then, I was like, I can handle a lot of things. I'm very good with productivity and time management, but I don't think I can handle all of this, is, what it came down to. So my sons are 15 and 8. So it's becoming and the 15-year-old's in like college courses. So he doesn't need a ton of help, but he still needs some guidance every once in a while. And then the little guys, and he was in first grade at the time. And it was, now I have to help him stay focused and on time and, all his assignments. So I was like, okay, let's just ask my friends who are nurse writers who I've helped coach and helped grow their businesses if they want a little bit of my work for that time period. Well, that time period turned into a whole new thing. Now I've like launched a whole new different side of my business, now growing into, I almost think it's like an agency model in a sense. I have now many nurse writers writing for me, already for companies, but only I work with the client. So I kind of go out and do the dirty work, right, of getting clients and the time of like, closing contracts and whatnot. And then they subcontract with me, and then I deal with all my writers through our onboarding process and such. So that's kind of, and COVID kind of helped me with that, unfortunately. Unfortunately.
Yeah, and look, and I think that's what so many people are finding, right? Is that actually you challenge yourself with different sort of models, and the way of doing stuff, and it's crazy that it's only like 8-9 months ago that everything was different, and there wasn't even this idea of what a lockdown was and so on. But that's really forced people to look again at how those models work and what might be right for them. And in terms of then sort of bringing through those writers for you as well, I guess that in their own way they're sort of setting up their own businesses too. And how does that feel from a kind of mentor perspective?
So I feel like, people that are growing their own businesses, I feel like there's, I hope there's always going to be work for all of us. I have that optimistic view of, not that scarcity mindset, but that abundance mindset where, there's enough to go around for all of us. I don't feel like any of my colleagues are competition, and they're friendly competition though. Like I feel like if I don't know something in the oncology world, I know somebody who does, and I can refer them business.
Yeah, and I guess there's the kind of, you push each other as well, right? Is there a bit of that
absolutely
competition? I think is one of those words, those hashed together words.
And we have our own like Facebook group too, where we kind of push each other and ask questions, because I think the hardest thing about being an entrepreneur in this online world is you do feel alone. You don't, unless you're like Googling and trying to find those answers all the time. It's easy to go to a group of like-minded people to say, how did you do this? And boom, you got an answer.
Yeah, fantastic. And I couldn't agree more. I think that one of the things that's really important is that contact, even if it is over, I mean, this is thousands of miles, but it's just knowing that there are others out there in the same kind of boat as you who are striving in the same sort of direction. If you were to kind of bake down or distill down what it is that you are here to do, how would you describe that in terms of your sort of inspiration?
My inspiration is probably, the flexibility and the freedom for someone not to tell me that I can't take 2 days off, or go, like this summer we got an RV and we were able to just take off and take our kids, to different locations in our state, and really enjoyed times together as a family. And nursing's wonderful. It's truly a calling, and I love it. That's why I still work the bedside, but not all the time. And so I feel like my calling to nurses that want to do this for a living is, even if it's a side hustle right now or just to get extra money, to break away from bedside burnout. I feel like that is our huge thing right now with COVID. Doesn't matter what department you're in. If you're in an outpatient surgery center, you're still getting hit with the COVID stuff. Being behind a mask, I worked yesterday at the hospital. I was behind a mask. I call it the goldfish bowl. You have like the visor and the mask and everything for 14 hours. It's a long time. And, you're so thirsty and your face hurts and get acne and all the things. We can't eat together anymore. We can't, there's so many restrictions put on us. And then you have your patients to worry about. So it's a lot on nurses. And I just hope if people want to explore their creative side, to give them that outlet to be able to, whether they're building the business or not, I should say,
Yeah. And then how did the idea come to you? What sort of started this all off?
I think it came from people that I'm in different groups with, kind of mentors along the way. I see, they aren't nurses, but other content writers out there that I follow or that I'm part of their little Facebook groups. And I kind of been watching them and I'm like, well, where can I grow? You get to a point when you're just a freelance writer, not just when you are a freelance writer and you have multiple clients, but you're kind of booked. So either you have two choices. You can raise your rates, or you can go into some sort of like agency model or, subcontracting model. And that's what I ended up doing, because, I was maxed out on the time that I had. I wasn't doing 40 hours a week or anything like that, but my time was maxed out. So I thought, how can I grow this? So, I now have like multiple streams of income with affiliates and courses, and then being able to have my podcast and such. But, it's really just, my idea came from, honestly, COVID, when I asked my mentors, like, how did you start subcontracting? What do I need to know? And came up with my own kind of onboarding process. Because the other thing is, like, you can't just come to me and be like, hey, I want to write. Can you get me a client and money? Well, there's a little process we have to do to make sure you know how to write.
The control needs to come in somewhere, right?
Yes.
And do you find that people are approaching you now? Is it as in writers and so on? Is this you're almost
for sure?
There's a kind of tsunami of people approaching you now, is there?
For sure, I definitely have nurses approaching me for content writing, as well as clients that are approaching us as the Savvy Scribe podcast or the Savvy Scribes, wanting to work with multiple nurse writers because they like the idea to get content quickly. So if it's just me working on it, I can write maybe 4 articles a week or something, but collaboratively with all of us, we can do 12 a week and hand that off, very streamlined kind of process for them.
Yeah, brilliant. And I think you're absolutely right. One of the things that I observe is that a lot of entrepreneurs get caught up in that sort of selling time for money. So actually, and that's exactly where you were, where you've got so many hours in the day or so many hours a week, and that is productive. Essentially that is a production line, and then it comes to an end, and then it's the weekend, or you don't have a holiday, or whatever. So actually finding this way of scaling that up, I think is brilliant. And you said that kind of came from some mentors and so on. How do you then find the jobs and the actual the kind of demand side? Is that something that is the challenge for you now, or is that something that always came easy?
So it's definitely a different type of challenge, I will say. So, as a freelancer, I was constantly pitching my ideas. So my ideas to different publications or websites or whoever it might be. Now it's developing a pitch in a sense of a service instead of an idea. So that has definitely changed. And also the type of clients. I wasn't always going towards the clients that were very high paying because, it was just me. They might have had a budget for me, but they might not have a budget for an agency type model. So
Okay.
yeah, it's definitely now, like if you like ask maybe like what my typical day looks like, it used to look like a little different than it does now. Now it's more in the morning. I do client work or client stuff in a sense. I look at the assignments that are coming due, what I got to reach out to writers to do, the deliverables I need to give to clients, and then it's like outreach and sales. So I have to, then pitch the services, or follow up with those leads I already had that people are referring me to now, which is awesome. I'm getting a lot of referrals, which is, again, like you said, it's only been 8 or 9 months. So it's still new, which is awesome. But, I'm kind of learning as I go. And even some of my referrals are like other agencies that have this at like a way higher level. And just everybody's so helpful, which is awesome.
Wow. Brilliant. And when you enter that sort of ecosystem and suddenly find out, because people you think are going to be like, if they're charging this much, they're going to be so much more, I don't know, just aggressive or horrible. But actually they're not. They're there to help out as well, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. The guy I met with the other day, he's like, oh my gosh, Janine, you're just like, you remind me of myself like 20 years ago. He's like, you're just so driven and ready to go. I'm like, oh, thanks. And then another guy I was talking to, we ended up not working together because he was looking for something just a little bit different than what we offer as like nurse writers. But he was like staying in contact because he's like, I just, again, love like the entrepreneurial spirit. I think you're just great. And like, I think we can work together somehow. And I always love to hear that because there's always, opportunities in this. I think that's what's so cool about entrepreneurship is that there's so many different opportunities. It's not like when I go to work, it's the growth ladder is only to management or to leadership. And as an entrepreneur, you could kind of do whatever you want. If I tomorrow wanted to start doing like, I don't know, Facebook ad agency or management or something, I could learn that skill and somehow like make it profitable. So I just think it's so neat.
No, absolutely. And it does, as you say, that within your nursing career, there was kind of like a finite sort of way to get to. What made you start writing?
I think the creative side. I've always loved to write. I wasn't writing for companies or anything. I actually didn't even know you could really make money. Like as a writer, I always heard it was like an artist, the starving career, what I was always told, right? So
you've got to kind of do it, but you got to suffer for it.
Yeah, so like I always thought I was like in this box of like you need a degree to get to this, to do that. And those with journalism degrees, they're wonderful, they're great. But I've realized that some people just have that skill and that ability to write, and to improve your writing, you just have to keep writing. So my original like writing, someone just told me on my podcast the other day, she said there's a study that says like when you're 8 years old, whatever you wanted to do, you should do it. So I'm thinking, holy cow, I never thought that as an 8-year-old, my dad has like stacks of books that I would write him, and he would bring them to his office. And it was like, my first book was like, our house is a zoo because we had like all these animals. Like, he would show me. So it's funny because, I was like, well, I guess I was always a little writer, as time went on. I wrote for my high school, my college, and then, always did like newsletters for the hospital and worked with their marketing department to always put things together and presentations together. So at heart, I think I'm still a writer, and I loved the creativity behind it. And in nursing, I love the the productivity, the time management, the prioritizing that you have to do as a nurse, but there isn't a lot of creative side of it. So I was always like searching to do like more of this creative stuff, and content writing and starting my business is where I found it.
Isn't that amazing? And there is that kind of saying, like, you give me the child at the age, I think it's 7 or 8, and I'll show you the adult, and it's there, right? You know, so actually you're the epitome of that exact journey. And one of the things I spend a lot of time on with clients is about this kind of calling side, you know, this reason that gets you out of bed in the morning, that gets you to get through the tough stuff. And I think that's the real thing, that where you see so many small businesses that do fail, it's because when it's tough, there isn't that passion. And obviously, you know, you've got it, and you must speak to others who do as well. What do you think is kind of at the core of that driver? What are you aiming for?
I think my ultimate inspiration is my children and my husband. Like, they inspire me to keep going, to be here. I love just being with my family. So it keeps me home. And that's the number one thing. When I have hard times in my business, I have a quote in my office that says, it's not a bad day. It's just a bad day, not a bad life. So it's always just, to me, like, okay, it's just a bad day. We're going to go on to the next day. And I think it's just the drive that, okay, I've been doing this for 5 years now, a little over, because I didn't start my business until 2015. But every day I wake up, I'm excited to do it. And until I'm not, I'm going to keep doing it. So, you know, those early mornings, and as long as I have my day kind of planned and sorted out, but you never know. You wake up and a kid is sick or life happens. That's hard for me to let go sometimes. So I think it's, you know, the inspiration is always just comes down to my kids and my family.
Yeah, brilliant. So I'm going to fire a few quick questions at you, just to try and get a bit inside what's that kind of process and how you got about it. What is the best piece of advice you've ever received?
The best piece of advice I've ever heard or seen is never stop learning.
Brilliant, thank you. Where did your name come from, as in the name of the business?
Name of my business, Right RN. I was going back and forth with my sister. Actually, I have an identical twin, and we were going back and forth on different names, and we settled on Right RN because it was easy to think about. And then the Savvy Scribe, that was just something, we just were looking for something with like the 2 S's and kind of making it streamlined. So no big reason behind either of them.
Yeah, absolutely. And did you, just as a kind of like practical thing, did you then like look at different domain names and all that sort of thing, or did you just go, let's just go?
So Right RN, yes, there actually is another Right RN out there, but mine's rightrn.net. So you know, I wasn't gonna go back and change everything. I was like, no, it is what it is.
You could spend a lot of time going backwards and forwards and change little bits and pieces. Just go for it. Bank.
Oh, it's one of the things that holds people back is a business name. You just gotta go with it.
Yeah, and you can add your brand values onto it. It doesn't matter half as much as you really think it does. So
correct.
What do you wish you'd known back in 2015 when you started?
To find people that are just a little bit ahead of you and copy what they're doing. Not copy, but make it your own. Obviously, never copy, but just look at people in your industry that are a little bit ahead of you and just do what they're doing. Don't reinvent anything, because people have already done it.
Yeah. Do you know what? I have the exact same thing. So sales collaboration is one of the things we go quite hard on. And it's all about R&D. So R&D means research and development in big corporates, but I always think it's kind of, in the nicest possible way, rip off and deploy. And it's essentially that, right? Rather than you R&Ding it, rather than you spending all that time, all that money, going through the same process that somebody, like you say, you know, a year before, 6 months before, has done exactly the same and has probably gone through a lot harder. Just R&D it.
Yeah, I mean, I read a ton of books, a ton of those like business books, and all of them essentially have almost the same kind of messaging. You always take something away from every single book. That's why I always say, never stop learning. But truly, don't try and reinvent the wheel, because it's working. Things are working.
Absolutely that. And then the other one is go to the gold mine. There's a gold mine over there. go there. Don't start digging around here.
Correct. And like I said, don't only go with people that are a little bit ahead of you, because if you look at the people that are so far ahead of you, you won't know where to start. So, and even, now in my business, it's been hard for me sometimes to even think way back to the beginner writer. And I'm like, I forget what I was like then.
I'm doing exactly the same. So I'm launching a new part of my business, which is called Growth Execution Academy, all about launching business. And I'm trying to remember to write everything down.
Yes.
Because you do forget really quickly. I'm going through, like LinkedIn, Facebook, and adding different things in, doing that. I'm like, I really need to write this down. Because
and then it's always like, you tell the group, ask questions, because your questions help me remember how I was.
It makes you feel very old and very forgetful. What would you say is the main contributor to a successful business launch?
To a successful business launch?
Yes.
Community, for sure.
Yeah.
You have to have somewhere. You can launch all day long, but if nobody knows about it and nobody follows you, then it's not going to go anywhere. So I'm not saying you have to have, all these likes and all this stuff, but you need to have some sort of tribe, some sort of community, maybe an email list or whatever, to get your word out there.
So
people know, like, and trust you. They have to know, like, and trust you to believe in what you're doing.
Yeah, for sure. So that kind of idea of and thought leadership is a phrase that's thrown around quite a lot these days, but actually kind of being able to articulate and have done it consistently so people believe you.
Yes.
That's where you need to get to, right?
Yep.
So you have that track record there already, and as a writer, I'm sure that you've got a huge swathe of stories back in there to back up your story as well. What advice would you give to your younger self on the day before you launched your business?
You will make mistakes. Forgive yourself.
Well, really, yeah, that's a great one. Yeah, forgive yourself, because
forgive yourself.
Yeah.
So you're gonna make a typo in an email. You're gonna get people that don't like everything you're doing out there. It's just life. It's just life.
Yeah, I think that's really, really important. And people, again, when you're starting out and you want to do the right thing, you want everybody to love everything you're doing as much as you do, it can be quite traumatic, can't it?
Oh yeah, for sure. And you can feel, and there's many times, I would say at least twice a year, where I'm like, why am I doing this? I should just go back to the hospital, have my job. They pay me what I do. I come home. This is a lot of work, and it's hard, and everything's on you as a business owner, but something keeps driving us.
It's your reward at the end, isn't it? Is that knowledge that you've done something a little bit different that's out there.
Yeah.
I think that's super great. What do you think is more important, product, marketing, or sales?
Or what? Sales?
Yeah.
Marketing.
Yeah.
I think the product marketing. Yeah. I don't really have a reason. I just think it is.
Yeah. And so it's. I was going to say why, but if you don't have a reason, it's just again, it's the creative side. Is that really where you are? It's kind of You're very much the kind of and I guess your product is, whilst it is obviously the articles you write and the content that you put out there, I guess every single almost your product is marketing. It's kind of the conversation.
Truly, and I always like to create new things. So I think that's probably one of the bad things about me, is that I love to create, where I don't stick to one thing. And so that's another thing, another advice that you should give other people is don't stick with one thing, because I think as an entrepreneur, a creative entrepreneur, that I always have all these ideas and I implement them. It's not like I have these ideas that just kind of sit on paper. I just want to go with them. So, yeah.
So you execute on all those, and they obviously add to the wider kind of strength of the business. Would you say that some of them are less necessary than others, or they almost build into the kind of foundations of what you do?
Well, for sure. I think I've actually had thankfully, mentors that I've been with, and I have this mini mastermind group of me, the other one's Deanna Gillingham. She's the stay-at-home nurse podcast. And then Sadie, who owns Remote Nurse Jobs. We created our own little mastermind, and they're the voice of reason from the outside, right? I can ask my husband, but he's not in this space. So it's really nice to be with those two, because we were talking the other day and I was like, I think I need to do something with my courses or whatever it is. And they're like, no, you don't. You need to do client stuff. That's where your money is. You need to do more client stuff. I'm like, but I like to create. And it's like, no. You need to go where the clients are. So it's so true. Like, you have to go. You have to hear from the outside sometimes, because you could stay in your own lane all the time, but it doesn't branch you out to where your customers are and where, your business is.
Absolutely. There's a great concept of I don't know if you heard of it, the personal board, which is much like you kind of have a business board, but it's like a personal board. And what you do is you get kind of like 3 or 4 people, just like you are, and they kind of offset some of your weaknesses. So I am, I don't have a very good notion of risk. So I just do stuff. And I need a warrior. I need somebody who sits there and goes, what are you doing? Stop it. I'm like, oh, that's fine. Because otherwise I'm just off doing stuff over there. And, that kind of stuff, somebody's a warrior. I need to have somebody who's really good with money. And, those kind of things that just infill. And every once in a while, just kind of get on the phone to them just so you can hear something that isn't just you going, this is brilliant.
Right. Sometimes your idea you think is great, and then you throw it out there and it does nothing. And you're like, and that's where I say you're going to make mistakes. You're going to fail because you think it's great and your customers don't. Like, it is what it is,
It's not as big for them as it is for you. And as well, part of it is sometimes you wake up thinking, this is absolutely, it's on your mind. You're like, yeah, absolutely. Everybody must be thinking this. And then
nobody's thinking it.
But that's okay. You found that out the hard way. But yeah, I think, again, I think you're absolutely right. If you can get people to help you to get there faster, because as a solo entrepreneur, as a SME with a business that's growing, every single minute that you aren't doing the things that are really kind of start scaling your business up and making things more efficient are things that are going to be to your detriment in the medium term, right?
Right.
Brilliant. So look, I am very super. So we've had half an hour, and I'm really thankful for you making the time. I always ask just before people go, what are you up to next? What time is it actually over there, and what are you up to?
So next, like in business and life.
Yeah.
In business. So the next thing I'm on to is we are going to do a everybody who purchases my course this in 2020, I'm actually going to do like a live event in Facebook in our group for those who bought. And every 2 weeks, I'm going to go live and go even deeper into the lessons, because one of the things I see people do, it's not just my course, it's like courses throughout the online world. People start them and they don't finish them.
Yeah.
For whatever reason that might be. They might just be going in, getting what they think they need out of the course, and that's fine. But this is going to be just kind of like a hand-holding thing, but really building the group up and building up the people inside that we call it the implementation co-op. And then they are actually then graduated from the course, and then they become an insider, which is like my preferred writers list. So they get their clients and stuff too from me as well. So, some clients, they can still go get their own, whatever they want to do with their business. So
I see. So you're essentially making sure that it works both ways, right? So you're getting them to a stage where you're confident that they understand what you're wanting of them and that they've got the quality coming in, and they get the leads and the ability to grow the business as well.
Right. It's kind of like a push, because you could spend the money on the course and never finish it. That's fine. Or you could buy the course and then have somebody helping you get through it and have a live Q&A and all this stuff. So you just get some value and a little bit more hand-holding, like I said, to push you through the next lesson and get you keep going to the end.
Brilliant. The momentum through it. And I guess there's a kind of like an almost an accountability side to it as well.
For sure.
Right?
For sure.
Go out and calling out, have you done this? Have you not done that?
Yeah, because it's going to be every 2 weeks. So ideally, in those 2 weeks, you've completed those 2 weeks of lessons, and we talk about it a little more.
Yeah, fantastic. Listen, the very best of luck with that. Where can people find you if they are looking for more information, Janine?
Sure, you could just go to thesavvyscribepodcast.com. Everything's there.
Brilliant. Listen, it's a really, really great endeavor. I love to hear about it, and thank you so much for sharing with us here at the Growth Execution Podcast. Best of luck out there. I hope everything is as calm as it seems.
Thank you, Al.
We see a lot of the news and we worry a little bit about you guys, but you know, I'm sure
Now
everything's
you
going
guys
to
are on lockdown again, right?
be. We are back in lockdown. Yeah, we've got another couple of weeks of this, but apparently there's a vaccine coming, so yeah, it's all going to be okay.
Sure. Let's hope.
Exactly that. Listen, Janine, thanks very much. We'll catch up again soon.
Thank you so much. Take care.
Take care. See you soon. Bye.
Bye.